Hello, everyone. Chicken Sandwich here. And I just wanted to give a bit of a rundown for all the new people or people who might have been here for a while and still might be a little bit confused on the different terminologies we have here within the SSBL. I know sometimes we aren't always the clearest with how we explain things, so I figured a video would be the best way to go forward. So each season, an organization is giving pitching points, position points. You have majors camps, minors camps, and you also have the ability to make primary changes. And I just wanted to give an example on how you can do these things. So for pitching points, they're fairly straightforward. These are points you can apply to your pitchers, and that can be majors or minors, and you can add pitches to their arsenal. And 1 point is one pitch. No one pitch is more expensive than the other. And there are no limitations onto how many pitches you can throw onto a pitcher. So a pitcher could have 5, 6 pitches if you really wanted them to, but there's no limitation on how few they can have. So they could have only 2 if you really wanted for some reason. So here, for example, Bombers added a changeup to Fields Goodman over the air, so that's just 1 point. Also, another thing you can do with your pitching points is you can remove negative traits. That costs 2. So here the Gauchos removed K-Dove from one of their players, Hai Chu, and that costs 2 of their 3. So you'll have 3 throughout a season, so be careful how you spend them. And then similar fashion, the position points for organization, you get 3 of them, and that affects a player's secondary. So for an example, for the Bombers, Dam Armstrong Hula added a third base secondary to her. And Patty Potts changed her secondary from shortstop to third base. So there's a couple different things. So if you have no secondary, you can use one of these points to add a secondary. Or if you already have a secondary and you want it to be a different secondary, you can change that secondary over to a different one. And we have a different tier list for the different types of secondaries here. So to go from no secondary to some sort of secondary is 1 point. And then gradually, if you wanted to increase it, so from here to here, you'd have to go 2 more points. So if you had an outfielder who had a secondary of a specific position, to go to a more wider, flexible position, you'd have to go 2 points. And each step up this tier, you have to have the previous tier. So if I wanted to go from no secondary to OF, that would cost 3 total points. Also, with the position points, you can choose to remove negative traits. So again, with the Gauchos, they removed bad jumps from Theo Thunder. And these points are also good throughout your entire organizations. They can be applied to people in your majors or in your minors. So as for majors camps, these are something that trigger at the end of a season. So once a season has been played, these camps will come into use. And I explained this a little bit on the Discord the other night. We talked about it, but just to reiterate here, you've got 2 majors camps, one that is up to plus 20, one that is up to plus 10. There are some limitations here, so for position player, you cannot apply this majors camp to them if they are 350 points or above stat wise. And then for pitchers, if they are 200 stat points or above, they will not be able to get used on them. And then also for ages, the plus 20 and plus 10 are the caps. So people who have 3 years of experience or less would be able to get the full value of the camp. If applied to anyone 4 seasons or more, they would only get half of this value, so plus 10 and plus 5 respectively. As for primary changes, this occurs in the majors if you had played someone in their secondary position for 10 games throughout the season. So if they played at a secondary position for a minimum of 10 games, at the end of the year they did that, you can submit in your team channel the ability to flip their secondary to their primary position. Their primary position then would become their secondary position. And then here for minors camps, you will accumulate these as the year goes on in the minors. So you'd get the first 2 minors camps once you reach the halfway point in the minors season, and then you get the second 2 minors camps once you reach the end of the minors regular season. Also, there are primary changes available through players who you've kept in the minors the whole season. They had to have played their secondary position for the entire minors year. One other thing to talk about that kind of goes along with the points and camps we get every year are free trait rolls. So you have the ability each year to submit a player, and there's no limitation on age or experience. So you can submit a player, whoever you wish to, and you don't have to if you want, to get a free trait roll. And this is a stream that happens during the off season, usually after the draft. So you can see here last year, Nick Hugh Jr. was a player the Bombers submitted, and they ended up rolling contact versus right-handed pitchers. So you can get a positive trait, but you could also get a negative trait. So here the Unicorns rolled Ash Frost, but came up with Whiffer. So it is a bit of a risk. And we can go here to the rule book, and we can see with the free trait roll, it's a 55% positive outcome and a 45% negative outcome. Player has no traits, they will gain either the positive or negative trait. If a player is submitted who already has a positive trait, they could gain another one or risk losing their already existing positive trait. And a real nice boon, if a player with an existing negative trait is submitted, they could lose that negative trait, or they can be granted a second negative trait. And then one last thing I want to cover is the undo point. And we can scroll over here to the Unicorns. So you have the ability to undo one thing in your organization. So here, Unicorns at one point used their 3rd position point to Santaram to put him to second base. But they later undid this, so they got the point back and then were able to reapply it to someone else that better fit their organization. So you get one undo factor throughout the season, and that applies to pitching points, and that also that undo point can be applied to pitching, or it can be applied to a position player as well. Also, you can choose to undo one of the camps you've applied and then apply that camp to somebody else. But I think that about covers it here for points and camps. So each season we get issued these. So here we can look at the S8 schedule. So there'll be a date where the cutoff to use season 7 points and traits. That is February 26th. So that will be the last day you can submit into your team channels what you want done with these camps and points. And then after that day, the season 7 points will go away. And then here on March the 6th, we will issue out your S8 allotment. So that's when all you new expansion teams will get these things available to use throughout your organization. But that will about do it. I hope this video was helpful to some of y'all. And let me know if there's anything else that you think would be useful in a brief video like this. Thank y'all, and I'm looking forward to Season 8. Talk to you later.